Hello everyone, my name is Melissa McClement-ENGLER. I am your art appreciation professor for this semester. I wanted to first thank all of you for taking my class and welcome you into art appreciation. A few things before I get started in this part of the lecture. I do try to screencast over the top of the PowerPoints, so you actually get my voice along with what I would normally say in class. Hopefully that helps and doesn't confuse. But also, I do want to tell you that because this semester we are completely online, this is the first time this course has been taught completely online. Of course, last semester I had done the end of the semester online. So if at some point you are not seeing something up that you think should be up, or if something's not working correctly, please do send me an email and let me know that, because unless my students are telling me something's not working right, I can't fix it. So just make sure that you do that. Make sure that you look at the syllabus. It should be under the syllabus section. There is an email on there. That is my email directly to the college. The email that is with Canvas and that connection is Warrior Mail, just like your Warrior Mail. So make sure that you give me enough time. I may not look at my phone and see that you sent me something immediately, but I do want to let you know that I'm not a technology person. I guess I'm just getting too old, but I do want you to know that I don't want you to stress about anything. I have kids of my own. I have one in college right now who I know he stresses every time something doesn't work in one of these classes. So I just want to let you know that don't stress about it. Just let me know. We'll figure it out. Everything will be fine. Okay? So in this beginning of this semester, remember, because most of this stuff I am kind of having to go in and do from scratch and things like that, if something's not working or you don't see something, sometimes you might need to be a little patient. I know we're at accelerated pace, so I may have to extend deadlines. For example, you're supposed to be taking a quiz on the very first day of class, but I understand that is a huge section of material to cover, so I put that off a day, or actually a couple of days. So look at your deadlines, look at the date, look at the time, make sure you're hitting that. I do try and give you that time that's in there. I know some courses that the instructor wants you to take the time during what was actually supposed to be the in-class time, but I also know that because you're taking this online, you may be at work, something like that, and you do it at a later time during the day. So just make sure that you are being patient and letting me know if there are any issues. Okay, so we're going to start out. This is part 1 of chapters 1 through 3. And what we're going to start out with, of course, is what is art. Now, there is in the PowerPoint here a link to a short video. You'll see videos along the way. Because this is art, it's a very visual thing, so there will be videos. I apologize that some of the art videos, I mean, if you think about it, art videos are sort of like public broadcasting services, the PBS channel. They have folk music and all kinds of things like that. You know, I'm not crazy about that either, so I apologize for that, but I am showing you the video because there is good information that goes along with that, okay? So make sure you take a look at these video links. Okay, so what is art? How do we define art? That's usually a question that I'm asking you right off the bat. And usually we get something like creativity, something that is new and inventive. You know, some of the things that we need to look at are, and one of the things that I know that a lot of people feel about art or a dislike for art is because we don't understand it. I myself remember back in high school, I wanted to take a woodworking class. I thought, oh, that will be great. I'll learn how to work in wood. And the very first day of class, the teacher told me that a 2x4 was not a 2x4. And that was just something that I myself, being a very concrete person, could not get a hold of that. I couldn't understand that. Why would you say something is this, but it's not? So I want you to know that, when we look at art is kind of an open-ended thing. So we're going to look at something that is called aesthetics. And aesthetics is going to be your own personal view on what is beauty. Okay, so when looking at this image, this may not be something that you consider to be beautiful. Not all art is supposed to be beautiful, but with this particular image, it is something that is creative, inventive, those kinds of things. So, we have things here that we're going to see. Hot air balloons. Hot air balloons are something that we're all familiar with. Normally, what we think of is that traditional, kind of rainbow striped hot air balloon. But, there's different kind of, I want to say the different strokes for different folks, but there's different aesthetic appeal. So someone may want something different than another. That is definitely art. This is an image of a still life. So a still life is a group of objects that are put together and drawn or painted. Normally we would see a bowl of fruit or a vase of flowers. This particular image here, we have random objects put in. A lot of times those random objects are not so random. Sometimes they do tell us some sort of narrative, some sort of story. So these are the kinds of things that I would like for you to start to look at and think a little bit deeper about. So subject matter, why do we have a fishing lure? We have a big stake. We have an axe and a log. And, we have these objects here. What kind of story is it telling you? Those things will help you in interpreting a piece of artwork. And that's something that you may never have done before. So think about that. I mean, this is definitely very much on the line of a masculine type of image, but it's just because of the objects that are chosen. Okay, here we have a picture that is drawn on the back of a dirty car. Now, who hasn't done that, right? We all see a dirty car when you do a smiley face or a heart or hi or, I was here kind of thing, okay? Now, do you consider that to be art? There's some video links there. It's very interesting to listen to this gentleman talk about it. When I look at this type of art, sometimes art is meant to be kept and sometimes it's meant to be thrown away. So when we think about things like the Great Pyramids of Egypt, those are there for us to remember for all of time. There's very much a prideful political thing that goes along with those images, right? But with this particular image, this is more reminiscent of something like a modern day illustrator. An illustrator is a person who does work for print. So magazines, books, movies, newspapers, those kinds of things. And when we look at that, those are kinds of the things that, how long do we keep a newspaper for? Usually we read it, throw it away. We don't keep it. So that duration of time is much shorter than what the duration of time was for the pyramids. Well, this one is even shorter, and this guy actually likes that. He likes that it's not going to be around for very long. He likes that it's going to go away. Sometimes we find art in some of the strangest places. I always think it's funny when we find random pieces of art and you go, whoa, what is that? This looks like King Kong's trying to come up out of the water's edge. It's fun, it's interesting, but a lot of times there's artwork that we are surrounded by that we haven't even noticed. And I want you to think about that. How many of you walk down the hall of a building or anything like that, and there's artwork that's on the wall, but you don't pay attention to it? Sometimes we have people who are very artistically inclined, and they are from kind of a very young age. A lot of that can be, I want to say, maybe influenced by the reactions that a person gets when they make something that's creative. I was a child that showed artistic interests and abilities at a very young age. I played with my food. And that's what we see here. No, I did not make a meat manger, and I apologize if this offends anybody, but I was just showing the fact that, you know, art comes in very strange and interesting ways. I think today we're seeing a lot of people's reactions to this, and it's much more accepting. You know, we think of a person who is, let's say, a cosmetologist. Normally we would have just said back in the day, my hairdresser, and we wouldn't have necessarily said a cosmetologist. It makes it sound, you know, more sophisticated. Then we have a person who is a chef. You know, someone who cooks at home versus a chef makes an art of it. Well, those are the kinds of things that I know for like myself, I say my parents paid attention to things like that. When I played with the food, they paid attention, which was a good thing. You know, sometimes you might be outside and you do things or you see things that are in nature that remind you of something else. I was very influenced by seeing this particular image of, you know, I've been to San Francisco along the beach. People go along and stack stones in tall towers. Well, this is another one of those kind of ideas, is stacking those stones into an interesting shape. You know, start looking at these things. Are they art to you? Or are they not? Remember, it's going to come back to that aesthetic opinion that you have. This is another area of art that I find really interesting, and it's not really all that old. It is taking objects and playing with the light. So here we see kids building blocks, just wooden blocks of different shapes, scattered out on a surface, and then the light is pointing to direct a shape of a shadow, and that shape of that shadow is a person. Really interesting the way this looks. I can't tell you how I find this really fascinating. Take a look at the video link. There's some fun ones in there. There's maybe some pieces of stained glass, colored glass hanging from fishing line, and light striking it to where it paints a portrait on the wall. That's really neat and really interesting, and it shows a lot of conceptual prowess. And then we have some people who art to them, or some things maybe a little goofy and funny. You know, I know myself, everybody has in town that one house that somebody decorates their house with all these fun and goofy things. Maybe it's the blow up things for every single holiday that they have out in their yard, or somebody's crazy about roosters, or somebody's crazy about pigs. You may not necessarily think this is art, as in a fine art world, but it's definitely art. Sometimes art is meant to be kind of witty and funny, and this is definitely one of those where you look at it and someone creatively thought of this. You have some people who take things like this classic David sculpture, and they've gone in and they played with it with the computer and photoshopped it up. You know, dealing with some of the subject matters that we have today of obesity in society and things like that. You know, these are some of those things that you're seeing out there that you may have never noticed. Now, this is a surreal image. Now, surreal means that it's kind of the art of the dream world. It's dreamlike images. So it might not completely make sense to you. This, to me, makes me feel like I'm looking at some kind of private eye kind of story kind of thing. That's very surreal. So art is going to have different messages for each and every single one of us, and I want you to remember that. I'm going to go ahead and stop this part of the video, and we'll pick up with the second part of the video with this Damien Hirst sculpture.